welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I'm a stroke survivor and grateful recovering alcoholic. Today, I'm going to talk about getting comfortable saying no. I wanted to touch on why it's so difficult to say no and why it's so important to say no. So, I am a people pleaser, and I think that there are, it seems to me, more people that are people pleasers than not people pleasers. I think that's why so many people can relate to this topic of how difficult it is to say no. Saying no to people gives me sometimes a feeling of guilt, even if I know I'm saying no for the right reasons. I still feel guilty. It gives me a little bit of anxiety. Uh, um, I don't want to disappoint the other person, even when it's something that I need to do for myself. I have self-doubt, like, I could do it, but, and in the back of your mind, you're thinking, the best, I really shouldn't do it. And this is something I'm struggling with so much right now because this vision impairment issue, as I've said before, I'm not blind, but using my eyes hurts. So there are things that I can do that I know I shouldn't do. And it's not just saying no to other people. There is this need or requirement for me to say no to myself. And that is probably the most challenging thing that I'm facing right now. Some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, though, relates to work and saying no at work because I'm a marketing director and people bring ideas to me, projects to me, can you do this? And I need to balance, right? I need to prioritize everything that is going on in my department. I have a couple departments under me now, so um, trying to juggle the resources and the real need for the projects to be done, each one that's brought to me. So needing to say no is a big deal, and I don't, I'll sometimes I'll say yes and be like, oh, I'll do it on the weekend, and that's not okay. I really shouldn't be doing that for my own well-being, but I remember before I went on short-term disability, I actually was dealing with one of my peers and wanted to make him happy. So I'm like, I'll just do it on the weekend because I can, And I think I even said, why? Because I can, and so it's hard. It's hard to say no. If I bring it back to sobriety, I had to start saying no to going to different events where there was going to be alcohol in the beginning because I needed to really evaluate how what my mindset was on any given day. So if there was a happy hour after work, I may say yes a couple days ahead of time that yes, I intend to be there. But if I'm not on the day of the event, if I'm not feeling spiritually fit, meaning putting my sobriety first, meaning I feel strong in sobriety. Some days I feel not strong in my sobriety, feeling like if I was around other people uh, drinking, it's gonna make me either jealous or angry, or I'm just not gonna have fun if I'm around other people drinking. And those are days that I need to say no, and I need to not be put myself in that environment because it's not what's best for me on that day. So I really had to start learning how to say no and put my recovery first in those situations. Now, there are times that I wanted to say no because I didn't feel like putting myself in that situation. I didn't feel like being strong. I didn't feel like being around it because I wanted to ignore the fact that I was an alcoholic and everybody else was drinking and I couldn't, you know? And there's a fine line there between those two situations or those two mindsets. And in those, I need to say yes, and I need to build up that comfort. I needed to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's really what those situations are. So, in those, I need to suit up and show up. And quite often, when I do that, I feel better. I feel stronger. It's like I'm learning. I'm building up that muscle memory to be in a situation like that and not have a drink in my hand, an alcoholic drink in my hand. That is. So the signs of discomfort when I should say no. I wrote down a few of these. So, um, one is if if what I'm being asked to do is going to make me feel guilty, then I need to say no. Meaning, if somebody, it's almost like my moral boundaries. If if what somebody's asking me to do is crossing those moral boundaries and I just don't feel comfortable, I need to say no. That may seem like an obvious one, but it really is helpful to me to say it out loud and acknowledge that, because you never know when that kind of thing's going to happen. Um, there are also instances where somebody may be asking me to do something at work, that I know is not right. And I need to feel comfortable saying no. That is, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And I feel like I'm pretty good at that at work. I don't recall a time that I felt uncomfortable with something and I did it anyway. I typically am pretty, there's too many ramifications for not making sure that I stick with my gut at work. So, on that level, it's pretty easy to say no. Um, Working, if I'm overloaded, I need to say no. That is really for my own, mental health, my physical health. I shouldn't be, as I said before, working on the weekend just to satisfy somebody else's needs. What is that other person doing? They're certainly not working, you know? Um, so, um, so when I am overloaded, I need to recognize that and be able to say no. So, checking my motives. Am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it whatever it is for my own enjoyment? Am I doing it to help somebody else? Um, or am I doing it simply to please somebody else, but I only have negative feelings attached to it? These are all reasons uh, to say no. So some of this stuff, like I have some examples of different ways of saying no, and it's beneficial, I think, to just say out loud that with all of these, it doesn't take away that feeling of I'm going to hurt this person's feelings, or this is not what they want to hear. But practicing saying no and saying it with clarity and confidence and assertiveness will begin to eat away at those negative feelings, that guilt and discomfort. So, I wrote down a few examples. So, here are some. Some of them kind of make me laugh. It makes me laugh because there's a Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon says, and I'm totally going to screw this up, but Sheldon says, oh, I would like somebody asks him to do something and he says, his response is, I would love to do that, but it sounds terrible. And I feel like it is the best way to say no ever. So anyway, that's the number one way of saying no. But here are some other choices. So sadly, I have something else going on. Another one is I have another commitment. I wish I were able to. I'm afraid that I can't. And notice, like, none of these are saying why. And I think that's something that I've been trying to talk to my kids about, is that we don't owe anybody an explanation. Like, if they're asking you to do something, all they want is a yes or a no. You don't have to tell them why you can't. So I think that is the part that ends up making the conversation get uncomfortable. It makes the conversation be more about, is that excuse truthful? Is it a lie? How uncomfortable am I coming across making this excuse? Like, saying no does not equal making an excuse. Saying no is just those two letters. No. No, I can't. You don't need to say more than that. And I find that if I try to say more than that, it comes across as me not feeling confident in the fact that I'm saying no. So back to the list here. So I'm honored you asked me, but I simply can't. I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. Thanks for thinking of me, however, I'm not able to. I'm sorry I'm not able to fit this in. Unfortunately, I already have plans, maybe next time. No, thank you, but it sounds lovely. That sounds like me. So I think the most important part of all of those examples is that none of them say why. There is absolutely no reason to provide an explanation as to why. And these are the benefits of saying no. At work, the biggest benefit is providing a higher quality a level of work on the things that you actually are working on. Um, the more that you have piled on your plate, the more that you're trying to multitask and stuff, the less quality work that's coming out. So if you want to give respect to the people you've already said yes to, then you need to know what your limitations are and when to say no. It could be even another option for saying no is, no, I really can't do that. I won't be able to give it the time that it deserves. Something like that. Now that's getting into the excuse part, but it's more thinking, putting yourself in their shoes and like what would be an acceptable reason for this person not doing this work I'm asking them to do. And I would respect somebody who says, if you want me to do, I won't be able to do it because I'm not going to do it well for you. I was just thinking of something that's important that goes along those lines. I've been having this happen all day today where I'm in the middle of a thought and it just goes away. Like the flick of a switch, like turning off a light. I have a thought and then it just disappears. This morning I'm totally taking a tangent. This morning I was sitting in bed and I was thinking about something, and all of a sudden it went away so fast. What I was thinking of went away so fast that it caused me anxiety, and I had a hot flash because I simply could not remember what I was just thinking about. I mean, and I was thinking about it for a good 30, 45 seconds, something like almost a minute. I was like totally thinking about something, and then like an off switch, it just went away. It's like this connection in my brain wasn't there and I couldn't complete the thought. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, it's happening right now. It happened 4 times this morning. Anyway, so I'm not going to be able to tell you what I was going to say because it's gone, but we'll continue on with the benefits of saying no. So next is taking care of your sorry, it's happening. For mental clarity and well-being, that's a benefit of saying no. To prevent burnout, to maintain strong relationships, to help others understand what your boundaries are. And successful people know what their limits are. Successful people who are leaders are very familiar with how much they can add on their plate and when they need to start saying no. And by saying no, you're practicing self-reflection more often, and self-care and self-love. And it takes a little bit of courage to say no. But in the end, it's best for your physical, mental, and psychological health in order to say no. So, I think I'll just close this out because my brain is having problems tonight. And so one of the great things about this podcast is that the reason I'm doing it is because I had a stroke 2 years ago. And over the past 2 months, I've been having trouble with my symptoms and one of those symptoms is what I've been calling brain fog. But as I continue to look at it and dissect it a little bit, it's kind of strange. And I've written it down for my doctor that so the next time I go, which I think is September 5th, I can tell them that I'm having a hard time like completing my thoughts, and I'm super forgetful and stuff, but hopefully I'll be able to articulate it to him. But so here's just a little bit more about saying no. This assertiveness for saying no is a way of practicing self love, and it's a way of advocating for yourself. And at the end of the day, you really are the only one who can just 100% stand up and advocate for yourself, to confidently and respectfully affirm what your needs are. And the benefits of being assertive, being able to say no, will improve your mental health, improve happiness, your self-esteem, and can allow for, in your career, personal growth. Because if you're not loading your plate up, then you're having time to really provide quality work and to progress. And then, so by clearly conveying and upholding your boundaries with others, you can practice assertiveness. So, a couple ways to build better boundaries and practice saying no is to be prepared, and you may want to just put together a little library of no's, library of your top 5 ways to say no, so you're prepared to say no at any given time. And to be clear, instead of like kind of trying to beat around the bush about why you can't and so forth, just make it shorter. Make your response much, much shorter. Don't give a why. And you can still be loving and respectful in that way. It's just you're coming across much more clear. And if you come across more clear, it just seems more assertive. And assertive is not aggressive. Assertive is confident. You can stay positive when you say no. You don't have to sound like you're upset or you're angry or disgruntled or uncomfortable. You can be positive and say, no, unfortunately, I can't do that. I'm sorry. And that's it. That's all that you need to say. And be persistent, because I personally know several people in my life that if I say no, will come back with alternatives that may try to influence me to say yes. And so in those situations, for me, I typically say the same sentence again. If I say, oh, that sounds wonderful, but unfortunately I can't go. If somebody were to come back to me with a suggestion on how they may be able to convince me to say yes, I will say the same sentence again. It really does sound wonderful, but I can't go. And that's it. Because sometimes I have found that people want to know what the excuse is. And in that battle, I'm going to win because then it just becomes almost a game for me, is how can I continue to say no and never say why. So it's kind of evil, but anyway, it's funny. Okay, well, I'm going to end the episode. I apologize for some of the weirdness with my head, but that's part of listening to a podcast by a stroke survivor. And I want to always be real. And if there are any other people out there that happen to listen to this podcast now or some other day in the future, they may be able to relate and can reach out to me. So it's important that I'm always talking about the real situation that I'm dealing with my health. So I appreciate everybody else's patient who is here for the crazy learning, fascinating information that I'm communicating out. All right, well, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.